you know? And sometimes we got to look at things, and my wife and I talked about that. Because I pastor churches where I don't like people scaring kids about hell. I just don't like that kind of preaching. I want love, grace, mercy preached. That's what's going to draw people to the Lord, not beating them up or scaring them with torment. It's all bull. And we got to understand that. We got to stop trying to, being. I've seen so many preachers that run 3 or 4 different women, and deacons running women, and everybody wants to act like they're so holier than thou. And one thing I always remember is a buddy of mine that was a Catholic priest told me, he said, Johnny, you know the difference between my church and your church? And I said, no, brother, what's that? He said, well, we Catholics, we put our beer in the refrigerator, and y'all hide yours in the closet. And that's the truth. And people want to beat people up and judge people for things they do. Nobody has the right to judge anything for anything that anybody does. Nobody. God's not going to judge you for the things people got you thinking he's judging you for. As I said earlier. It's walking away from him and not listening to him. Do you think I had a mistake of who was talking to me that night out in that jungle? Nobody could change my mind who was talking to me. Nobody called me Johnny except my family. So my Heavenly Father called my name. And he did it in a real soft voice. And I wasn't going to church. I wasn't praying. I was praying once in a while because I missed my kids. I missed my family life. Believe it or not, you get caught up in that lifestyle. It's not as glamorous as people think it is. It's really not. You always got a gun at your head. You can't sleep without that gun. You can't trust the guys that are sent with you to bodyguard you. You cannot get your eyes off them because one of them will take you out. It's not a good life to live at all, I'm telling y'all. And that's what I've always tried to do is when I see young men heading that direction, I try to help them to show them to get on. That's why I go to the rallies. That's why I go to Sturgis or to Laconia or to Daytona is to meet these young men to just they're kind of caught up and don't know, they're not really caught in the web yet, but they're about to get caught in the web. Y'all know what I'm saying? And y'all got to understand, I got some of my best friends are some of the top 1%ers in this country. They stay at my house, I stay at their house. They call me when they need prayer. I do weddings and funerals for them. Just because a man wears a 1% on his vest, don't believe that he don't know who God is. I've seen churches show more disrespect in a church when you go to pray, and people won't be cocky about taking their hats off or their do-rags off. I've been with 1%ers getting a circle and every one of them taking their do-rag off when they go and pray and show respect. So don't tell me they don't know the Lord too. And don't think you're ever going to go into a prison, in a prison ministry, and preach to people, and those people don't know the Word because they know the Word better than you do because they got time to sit there and study it. They know every word in that thing, and they'll trip you up and bite your head off if you're not careful, and make you feel like a fool. That kind of ministry is not for everybody. The churches that want to take people to these storefront churches, let's go out to the park and witness to people. Man, they'll run into a Jehovah's Witness or a Mormon or somebody that's going to out-talk them and make them scratch their head and try to figure out what's going on. There's so many cults out there, in so many different ways. Like I've told y'all before, in the Baptist church, I'm preaching again, I'm sorry. In the Baptist church, there's 27 different kind of Baptists. Why is that? Because that would be like we're sitting here today, and each of us have just one little thought a little bit different. So we're not going to go to that church. We're going to go start our own church. And that way everybody will believe like we believe. But it shouldn't be that way. Jesus didn't do that. He didn't call any churches. Look at all the thousands that met. What were they? Were they Baptist, Pentecostal, Catholic, Methodist? They were none of that. They were the children of God.
They were believers.
Yeah, they were believers. And that's what we need to shoot for. And in America, we need to shoot again for being Americans. I've been blessed to travel. America's the only country that when you can put a birth certificate out, it says what race you are rather than being an American. always be racism in America as long as you do that. There'll always be racism. The only way we're gonna stop it is do away with it on the birth certificate and thing. We're Americans. We're not African American, Italian American, we're Americans. And y'all know it. You know, my son put a thing out. My son was a Ranger. My son put a thing out on Facebook the other day. He says one thing that was neat in the barracks, they had all played games, or somebody of one of the ethnic group was giving somebody some treats that his mama sent him that he never ate before, and one guy of another ethnic group playing cards with another buddy. When you get up in those barracks and you know what's out before you, for some reason you become colorblind.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
You see, you're looking at another American. We need to get back to that, brother.
I tell people all the time. One guy says, because I'm Mexican American. I said, no, where were you born? So I was born right here. So you're American with Mexican descent.
Yeah, that's
So
it.
that's exactly what it is. You're
That's
not
what- that's
Mexican.
exactly what
I'm
it is.
American Scandinavian descent.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you know,
My last name's Smith. I don't even know what I am.
He's a crowd all the way.
she's a cracker descent. She's an American cracker.
Yeah.
But you know, you were funny, you were talking about pretty much organized crime, and the Catholic Church has been a breeder of that over the
They were the
centuries.
bank.
Right?
They're the bank.
That's right. It was, Father, forgive me for I have sinned. It's all right, son, just put $100,000 in the kitty, and 3 Our Fathers and 2 Hail Marys, and you're forgiven. I love that.
That's a payoff, man.
That's pale. And not only that, but now I'm talking to the middleman.
That's all right.
Hey, I know somebody's heard this once or twice in their life. It's easier to get a camel through the eye of a needle than it is to get a rich man in heaven.
Oh, yeah.
Heard that numerous times.
No, money becomes a god, for sure.
You know where that came from? That saying, where'd that saying come from? You
That-
should read it.
Bible, sure.
This was that one saying, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
That's the back gate coming into Jerusalem. There was a hole in the wall, and that led where they led the camels, and the camels would go down
The eye of the needle.
on their
Eye
knees
of the
and
needle.
come through
Yeah.
that thing, and that's where they would take them in. They called that the eye of
Eye of the
the needle, but that's where it's referred to as that back gate coming into Jerusalem. But what you, the part you read, you read something too on it.
Oh, no, I asked him where that saying come from, and he said, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's where it is. That's where a lot of times, that's the entrance that Jesus took when he came in. Instead of going through the front gate, he came to the back gate of where the livestock came in.
I remember that when I was just a little kid going to school, going to church. I hated it. I was forced to go to church every week. And I hated it. I just didn't understand it. Until I moved to Florida. There was a gentleman by the name of Charlie Robinson. And he owned a Trinity Community Church. He didn't care what he believed in. He just spoke right from the Bible. He's the one that actually turned me on to it.
That's the best way. I was part of a ministerium when I was in West Virginia, and that's how I became good friends with that Catholic priest. He would give a better Bible study than the Pentecostal and the Baptist preachers were giving. I mean, he knew his